Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. For the first time in 50 years, last time in 1973 in Kenya, the annual meetings are back to Africa in Morocco. This is an annual series launched by the Atlantic Council's Africa Center on the occasion of the World Bank IMF meetings. The goal is to raise the African voices during the strategic gatherings around the development matters and advance the African agenda in a critical period marked by the post-COVID challenges still and the economic consequences of the war in Ukraine. Today, the Africa Center, in cooperation with the Geoeconomic Center, welcomes the Angola Finance Minister, Vera Esperança dos Santos Davis de Sousa. Mrs. Vera Davis, welcome to the Atlantic Council. We are here in Marrakesh, and I'm so pleased to say that you are the first woman to be appointed as Minister of Finance of Angola by President Lorenzo on October 2019, at the age of 35. You've served as Angola's Secretary of State for Finance and Treasury, and prior to the government, you have worked as finance technician at Sonangol, senior executive in the Banco Privado Atlántico, and lecturer in many universities. You also chaired the Capital Market Commission. Welcome again, and we have here a few minutes conversation about your country, Africa's fifth largest economy. So when you took this role, Minister, you were tasked by President Lorenzo with restructuring the country's economy. And since 2022, your country, as for our viewers, is the first oil producer in sub-Saharan Africa before Nigeria, and also the third African economy after Nigeria and South Africa. So my first question for our viewers, and I would like to remind that we are live. My first question is about the overall Angolan economy's outlook through 2023 and beyond in a context of global economy uncertainty. How would you describe the situation in your country, economically speaking?
Thank you first of all, thank you for this opportunity to share what is happening in Angola and what's our vision for the future. We still working on the way our economy is structured. Till now, we still have a high dependence on the oil sector, with all positive and negative effects coming from that. Positive because when the oil production it's fine, when the oil price it's in a level that it's quite comfortable to us, we get some breathing space to address our diversification agenda. The constraint is when is not, and because the other sectors that are the base of our economy is a very early stage of development, we feel some stress as we are feeling now. The oil production are not so positive. Of course, the price coming up, it helped to compensate. But while the oil production underperform, we need to manage less availability of hard currency with a lot of pressure on the demand side, because we import a lot of goods and services, especially on food, because we are not self-sustainable in a big number of products.
And you have also gas and diamonds, right?
I will reach there. And the consequence is to see a spike on the FX, increases on the prices of the food, and we need to deal with that. But you are right, we have options. We have gas, and we recently close a deal with two big oil companies to explore gas on a private investment, and we also will have diamonds.
Third exporter.
Yes,
Yeah.
also
In the world.
exporting, but we export raw material. We export commodities. I think we need to go further, developing a polishing industry, and we are also working on that. So the diversification of the economy and the food security are key priorities for the government in our national development plan. Human capital, creating internal capacity, health, education, nutrition, fighting against poverty, and food security, diversification of the economy will be the main drivers of our activity for the coming years. Just to make sure that we are growing on a sustainable and inclusive manner.
You mentioned that you have this challenge around food security. And at the same time, we know that Angola has almost 60 million arable lands.
Yes.
So it's tremendously huge. So what are the obstacles to the road to food security and maybe more food sovereignty?
We are doing a lot in terms of familiar agriculture. So we are producing a lot of fruits, a lot of veggies. We are also doing well on eggs, but we need to scale it up. We need to scale it up, and we need also to attract commercial farmers, large farmers will help us also to export. And also livestock and grains are the two topics that we need to put a lot of energy. And for that to happen, we are improving our business environment. We are permitting a big number of countries to come in without visa. Is something quite new that we understand that will also help. And we are implementing some reforms, internal reforms, to be more easier for the private sector to do their part.
And to do that, do you need partners? I mean, external partners.
Yes.
A few years ago, a few African countries and maybe beyond said they could recover from economic crisis without the Bretton Woods system, World Bank, IMF. What about your country? How do you appreciate and assess your partnership with the IMF and the World Bank?
I think we have a good journey. With IMF, we were already under a program under which we managed to build more resiliency in terms of our fiscal revenues. We implemented VAT. We do not used to have, and we also started a reform on the SUEs, addressing some debt vulnerabilities, and a lot of other reforms that we implemented under the program with the IMF that is useful till now. With World Bank, we are also working closely, addressing vulnerabilities on the social side, technical assistance also on policies related to subsidies removal. So we are working with them. What we understand that is missing is scale, more efficiency on both sides. Even the things need to move quicker on both sides, Angolan side as well, and
the level of loans
also. More concessional, long-term, as cheap as possible, and also to see how we can scale up everything that we are doing, putting the private sector on top of instruments that the institutions have. So how we can use more MIGA to guarantee some interest coming from the private sector and de-risk Angola and the appetite for Angola. So I think we need to move further on that, and we are advocating this during the meetings, and we hope to see results coming after this.
Yeah, maybe about your goals here in Marrakesh. What are your expectations for your country first, and then we'll talk about maybe the reforms that are on the table. what do you plan to do during these days, meetings with the leadership of the IMF, World Bank, other African development institutions too? Do you have specific goals?
Yes, yes. First of all, we want to join our voice to the sub-Saharan Africa region, echoing the needs of being more representative within the institution, especially the IMF. It's a discussion around a third executive director, and we are actively participating on that. And also to see how we can bridge the gap in terms of infrastructure without adding more stress on that. So it's a tricky question. How to put in place more infrastructure without put the African countries, Angola, in an even more stressful situation. That's why I'm telling that we should optimize the instruments to attract the private investment to do more with us, under PPPs, under BOTs, whatever, just to enable us to move quicker than we are moving and create the great environment for the economy to develop. But also on the human capital side, it's also quite important. And we are talking in terms of technical assistance, capacity building, to make sure that with each project, the knowledge stays in Angola. And we are able to put the Angolan companies as being part of the process of participating in projects funded by those institutions. So we want to create value internally. We want to see the money flow internally. And this is something that we are also presenting during the meetings, and also present the economic situation in Angola. We do not want to lie, to pretend what something is not happening. What we want is to disclosure is how we are dealing with the fragilities, how we are dealing with the stress, and what is our vision for the future. We will meet investors, Eurobonds holders issued by Angola, and just to keep the relation alive, and to give information, and to pass through some tranquility, and to show what we are doing and what we want to pursue and obtain under our national development plan.
You mentioned the importance to join the African voices to advocate for the reforms you just mentioned. We know that 13 years of war of independence gave to your country a leading voice on the African continent. So do you have the feeling that Africans speak with one voice when it comes to this question of reforms on the global stage? Or what would you like to improve? Is it about the African Union, or how can we envision the African voice on the global stage to be more efficient?
Well, I will be honest with you. I think that we are working more as a bloc, looking at to the more recent years as compared to the past.
Yeah.
I feel this. I meet more my colleagues from Sub-Saharan Africa. I call them, they call to me. We organize virtual meetings under United Nations for the Economic Commission, UNEC all hosting, even under African nation. I think we are closer. We are closer, and everything is easier when we are close, when we sit to talk. And now we need to go deeper, making sure that we have common points at our agenda. I know that each country has a different agenda, but we need to find common interest and go for it. And we are building this. We need to continue moving. We need to be resilient and also persevere, and also define timelines and pragmatic actions, just to avoid to become only speeches without results. So we need to progress to a way where we define timelines, concrete actions, and we find quick wins. just to motivate us to continue.
Yeah, and from Washington, where the Atlantic Council is usually based, we often hear that African markets are too risky for American investors, for example, more globally for Western private investors, and maybe public too. I don't know. What do you think about this idea or this necessity to de-risk the African markets? Is this question, is it legitimate, or is it something that the Africans should work on?
I think it's involved work from both parts. On the African side, we need to assume that we need to do better in terms of disclosure of information, data, because to invest, people need data, people need information, people need to be sure that the institution enforce the law. So we need to do our part even better. And we need to assume that and work on that.
And in your ministry, you have a strategy to improve the data?
Yes, we have it, and we are working with IMF on that. We have a technical assistance to improve our statistics on public finances and on that. And we have a specific project on that with capacity building for the team. But from the investor side, they need to be open to listen, to change paradigms, to not live with stereotypes. You need to go and see, to be positive or completely sure about what you are thinking. So sometimes you are only saying because you didn't even give the opportunity to learn what is happening.
An example about that, the informal sector. In your country, it's like 70% maybe
Yes, it's huge.
Of your economy. Is it a problem to be informal for an economy, according to you, knowing that, of course, we have seen all these reports coming from the World Bank saying that it's a curse to have an informal economy. So, but that's everywhere. Should we fight against the formal economy or just accept it and try to draw the best?
Yes,
Yeah?
I agree with you. We should make sure that they are organized, they are working on proper conditions, they are selling goods with quality, and in the best case scenario, they are paying a little bit of taxes. But we cannot fight against that.
Yeah.
It's too big.
It's the culture.
Yes,
The communities are.
Yes, it's impossible to fight against them. I think we need even learn from them in terms of logistics, because in Angola we have cases where the informal markets, in a logistic perspective, are functioning better than the formal. So we need to learn and to see how we can optimize what they are doing and make sure that they are doing on a proper way and in respecting the rules and creating value. I agree with you.
And the young people are very present on these informal markets. So, and in your
And
country-
women in
and
Angola,
women too. You're
a lot of
absolutely
women.
right. A lot of entrepreneurs. But the unemployment rate is still very high when it comes to young Angolans. So, do you have specific measures to the young people? Because we know how important their role is in African countries, and if they remain unemployed, maybe they can destabilize the institutions because they're not happy about that situation. So, do you have specific measures to their direction? And do you feel that the IMF and World Bank take these social aspects into consideration, maybe more than before during the times of the structural reforms, for example?
Yes, for sure. We have we call it employment agenda. It was recently approved with specific measures on capacity building, on funding institutions that will provide microcredit to the youth, the microcredit coming together with the capacity building just to make sure that the business live as much as possible, but also improving the quality of the institutions that already exist, that are providing high studies. So moving on that way of entrepreneurship, but also making our youth more capable to work even abroad, because we have a challenge of quality of the high studies, and we need to address it. And we are feeling a lot of openness, especially from the World Bank, on supporting us within this employment agenda. And once again, we have a specific project on that. Jobs, the name of the project is Job Creation and Diversification of Economy. It's a $200 million project. And we will work with specific targets to see how to build up the entrepreneurship and create new initiatives to help us with our diversification agenda.
And my last question for you will be about the corruption aspects, because during the political transition period, we heard a lot about the reforms to combat corruption in your country. Tell us more about your efforts to combat corruption in your country, and what you have done until now, the obstacles you meet, and what are your needs to achieve this work?
Well, it's an agenda that President João Lourenço took it very seriously. And on a consistent manner. It was not only one-shot event, but it's a consistent strategy to moralize the society. We start working at the top, looking at the politicians, people who has public responsibilities, and we keep working on that. But now we are working also at the base, small corruption. To take a license, to get a visa, to get an ID. The corruption is also there underneath the structure. So we are working also on that, firing people, suing people, and we keep sending signs to the society that we need to serve and serve well, and we need to live from our salary. We know that it's not perfect. We need to keep working on that. But while it's not perfect, we need to work with transparency and fairness to avoid. Once again, to undermine all work to improve our business environment.
That was not my last question, but I have another one on climate, because we are heading to the COP28 in Dubai in December. And I was reading a report on your country about the national climate change strategy you have developed for your country until 2030. And you are the first oil producer, I was saying earlier. How do you make this compatible? I mean, your main resources come from fossil energy, and you want to be engaged in a climate strategy. So how does it work?
First, we need the money to fund this strategy.
Yeah, you need to pollute before giving.
Like the rest of the countries that are developed now. So we need to have funds to serve the debt that finance as the strategy, at least on electricity, that we are following. We are building dams, hydropower, clean.
Yeah.
We are building solar panel, clean, and we are studying green hydrogen, clean.
Yeah.
But we need to pay for this. And for now, our main source of income is oil.
Yeah.
So,
and the international community has not met its pledges for funding, right?
Because they will not offer the money to us.
Exactly.
They will lend. And we need to serve that debt. We need to pay capital. We need to pay interest. To pay this, we need money. The money needs to come from our fiscal revenues. Our main source of fiscal revenues for now is oil.
And we know that Africa is not responsible for the global emission gas.
So we need to be fair. We need to be work with equilibrium. And that's why we are moving fast on the clean sources of energy, electricity. As I mentioned, hydropower, we have a lot of rivers around the country, solar as well, and hydrogen, green hydrogen, we are in a preliminary stage. Despite all that, we are also seeing signs from the oil companies to make the movement of transitioning. I will give you an example. Sonangol, our state-owned oil company, want to increase the share that they have at our biofuel company. They want to buy more of the biofuel. It's based on sugar plant. So they are start investing on biofuels. Total, Eni are working on gas. So they start looking to other opportunities because the fossil fuels will not last forever. So they need to be ready for this moment, and they are start working on that. It's our way to contribute.
Well, that's it. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Our conversation will end here. It was a real pleasure to have you on the Atlantic Council stage. What can we wish you? The best in your goals and for Angola. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.